quite casually.
Hi, this is my first video on how to make bread, or how I make bread. You need four things: flour, yeast, some salt, and water, and if possible a kneader, or you can just do it on your workboard. Now I'm going to add flour in first. Some people advise having water in and then adding flour on top of it, but I add flour first. If you notice, I'm not using any scales because I don't think there is any need to. They just waste your time, and bread is not about precision. It's just about roughly getting it right. That's what this video is about. So you added flour, yeast goes in, some salt. Place the salt in a place where the yeast is not there, because direct contact of yeast and salt can kill the yeast. Add water and knead. I do it for about 12 minutes. So how do you know if it's kneaded enough? The dough is stretchy, and you see a shiny buttery surface. That's usually enough. Now you leave the dough for about an hour to see if the yeast works, which is called the proof that yeast works, or proofing. Put a few drops of water on the surface so it doesn't dry out, and I leave it covered for an hour. That's a bit over an hour, and it's doubled in size. So that's proof that the yeast is alive and working. Usually at this stage you can either transfer it into a well-floured work surface and start beating it down and shaping it, or you can let the dough mature even further for taste, which is what we are going to do. We're going to leave it overnight in a fridge. I've transferred it into a bowl because the other mixing bowl will not fit in the fridge, and I'm going to cover it with a cling film. Just oil the underside of the cling film so it doesn't stick to it in the morning. Now that goes in the refrigerator overnight. This is the next day morning, and it's very cold, so it's kept the growth of yeast in check, but the dough has matured, and the nature of the yeast and other microbial growth in it is slightly different from what it would have been if it was in the room temperature for a few hours. So it has been overnight, and it's about 10:30 in the morning. I'm just going to dust a tin. It's just an ordinary tin. Dusted it quite heavily, and should be enough. The reason I portioned it into 3 parts is because I'm going to use one of the parts. I'm going to put them away back in the fridge, or I'm going to put it back into the mixer as a somewhat of a starter dough to add to the next batch of dough I'll be doing. So that way I always put a bit of older dough into every dough mix that I'm doing, so it gives it a great flavor, helps it at least a small percentage of the dough in your bread is always a bit of an older dough, giving it a very nutty, beautiful, exquisite taste. You have to try it to really understand. It's not something you get from any shops anywhere, because nobody does it to that extent. Even the farmhouse loaves. This way you get, it's a bit like adding old beer into bread. You get that kind of, and probably even better, you can improve it by adding yogurt. Yogurt to some extent kills yeast, but it also creates a very unique kind of composition, and you can discover your own particular taste and dose that way. But the best place to let it rise is in an undisturbed oven when the oven is switched off. Um, the oven doesn't even have to be warm, as long as it's not a horrendously cold kitchen. Just a closed oven is enough. So we are going to leave that in there for about half an hour to an hour, depending on the warmth. You will know when it's risen. We'll check in about half an hour. It's been about 25 minutes. I'm just going to check how it looks. It's puffed up a little bit. We're going to do something to help it puff up a bit more, and also prevent it from tearing up when it's baking. And that is, we need a very sharp knife or a small razor, and there, we have cut the skin on top of the bread, so it will help it split open. Now we are going to leave it to rise a bit further for another 20 to 30 minutes. That's been about half an hour, and you can see it's a bit more fuller. I have a bit of water here. That's to create some steam in the oven. That's oven in full blast. For domestic ovens, you just have it as high as it can go. And I'm just pouring the water on the floor. About 12 to 15 minutes. Halfway through, I'll pour some more water to create more steam. Alright, it's been about 12 minutes in a very hot oven, and we've got that. It's important not to cut it straight away as soon as it's out of the oven, because it won't be fully formed, the inside. It's still settling down. It's soft because of the steam, and it's still got a crust because that's what we wanted, but you can see how soft it is. And so I waited for about 7 minutes. I should be ready to slice. The smell or the aroma of the freshly baked bread has attracted my 18-month-old son to the kitchen now. He wants a first slice. It is important that the knife you use to slice bread be very sharp. This is a very ordinary cheap bread knife, but I have given it an extra sharpness, as you can see from the sharpening lines. So I can only describe the beautiful aroma and the texture. It is absolutely stunning. Once you have tried it, you'll never probably want to buy bread from the supermarkets again. Yeah. I've given that to my son, so that's how you make fresh homemade bread. You can use it for sandwiches, or just, it's delicious just on its own. Funnily enough, often we keep it for sandwiches and it's finished by the time we want to make them, and so you always have dough in the fridge. You always have dough ready to make bread with. So that's how I make bread.